Good morning everyone, welcome to another daily vlog. Before we start talking about dealing with judgment, public service safety announcement: always drive safe, don't text and drive. I switch off my display on my camera, or you can also just turn the camera display around on the DJI Pocket 3 and just let the lens face you. Do not get distracted when driving. That is really important for me to tell all of you. When you vlog in the car, do not get distracted, do not get emotional. Just do it casually, as if you were talking on the speakerphone. That is really important. Excuse me. And do not get into any safety concerns or safety issues. So with that out of the way, I wanted to talk about being judged. You see, there was my vlog a couple of days ago about this negative comment of a person who was judging my choice of a car and kind of correlating my choice of my car making, or kind of that being the reason why my bag reviews would be not useful or not trustworthy, because my choice of car in that person's mind is terrible. But also in terms of, I was at Muay Thai training 2 days ago, and I am at the moment, I probably will just put that footage in here as well. I'm currently practicing a tornado kick, which for those of you who don't know, is actually a technique from Taekwondo where you kind of spin and use the momentum to generate power in a flying motion for a kick to be delivered very fast, and use the momentum to generate more power. And it's a very flashy kick, so I'm not training it to use it in sparring, because it is very difficult to be precise with that kick. And in sparring, you don't want to, I'm of the belief of technical sparring. I rather have sparring where you learn something. It's not about kind of winning, it's not about hurting the other person, gaining points, but rather of technical sparring, so everyone has the opportunity to practice a specific skill, practice defense, offense, but in a way where no one gets hurt. So a tornado kick has, in my humble opinion, no place to be in a sparring session. So for me, practicing the tornado kick is more of something that I find is a very difficult technique, because you need to be very precise, but also there is a lot of coordination involved in that. Because yes, it is, in air quotes, easy to kind of spin around and to jump, but it is difficult to put that into the correct direction and then precisely hit your target. So that's something that I'm practicing, and yes, it is very flashy, and that's also the reason why I wanted to practice that. And I was showing that to a friend who has nothing to do with martial arts and doesn't know the intricacies about that and how complicated it might be. And when that person looked at that video, and I was overly excited, because obviously I know what's difficult about that, and I'm practicing that. And I was really proud of myself to somewhat be able to hit my target, hit the heavy bag in a way where I'm happy about the result. And that person is like, oh, okay, but please excuse, I have no idea, but what's so difficult about that? And I was really bummed out about it. Not because that person was in any shape or form judging me or had some ill will towards me. And obviously, if you don't have any clue about that, you just see someone kind of turning, jumping, and then throwing his or her leg up. So if you don't know how complicated it is, it potentially, or it probably looks a little bit not that complicated, but once you try it, it actually is complicated. And if you then also try to put it into one direction and try to hit the target, then it becomes a little bit difficult. But again, that person had no ill intent towards me, but I was really bummed out. But I felt like a little child painting something the first time and then running to your parents, showing that picture, and your parents are like, "Oh, what is that? I have no idea what it is." And you're like a little child, are like, "That's an elephant. I tried to draw an elephant." And your parents are like, "Oh, yeah, good job." But it's really ugly, you know? So you feel very bummed out, or in that moment, I felt a little bummed out. And that's what I kind of wanted to talk about, that in your life, you always will be judged in some way or form. Sometimes very negatively, sometimes neutral or with no ill intent, sometimes positively, but from, let's say, sometimes positive, but sometimes positive can also be a little bit misguided. For example, you are a parent or a partner, and for example, I like to watch like skill-based reality shows where people are singing, and then sometimes people go to this talent show thinking they can't sing so well because all of their friends told them, "Yeah, you can sing well," and then they audition and then they sing in front of you, and everyone was like, "Dude, that's terrible." And that's the form of positive reinforcement that also can be very negative because it's not based on constructive feedback. So in life, you will always be judged. And especially if you put yourself out there, like on YouTube, where you start out your own YouTube channel, you put yourself out there and you will be judged at some point. Also, if you've seen my vlog about where I had the title "Don't Read," where I mentioned those somewhat toxic spaces on YouTube, not because they want to be toxic, but because they are very defensive of their passion. So for example, I had the example of keyboards or watches, knives, motorcycles. There can be places or people who comment on your channel that will be very critical and judgmental of whatever you might be saying, because they are defending what they purchased. For example, with watches, obviously if you are a watch enthusiast and you are very passionate about whatever you might have bought, be it a Rolex, a Tudor, or whatever it might be, and then someone like me comes around with an homage watch like the Steinhardt Ocean Titanium, then people will be very judgmental and will be somewhat like, "Hey, that is a copy of a Rolex," and will be very aggressive and critical about that. So you need to be somewhat aware of that. When you put yourself out there, people will judge you, people will criticize you, and sometimes in a very harshly manner. And that is something that will be very harsh and in the beginning very hard to deal with. But it is something where you can grow and where you can learn something and get better in dealing with that harsh criticism. If it's constructive criticism, that's great. And I respect and I welcome constructive criticism. But there will be a lot of times in your life, not only when you are on YouTube, but also when you are in your job, when you're in your private life, people will judge you if they want or not. Maybe they don't want to judge you, but you can see their faces, how they react to whatever you show them. And that's okay. It will be hard. In the beginning, it will be very difficult. As I said, I was really taken aback yesterday when I showed the video of my tornado kick. And I filmed that not to show off, but to kind of analyze myself, because obviously if I can slow it down, I can see where I need some improvement. I already see when I watch that footage, I need to take care more of my hands and stuff like that. But in the beginning, obviously, it's just human. You are very proud of that and you look for some affirmation when you show it to other people. But you need to be very aware of the fact that you cannot expect positive affirmation. It's great if you get that, but you need to be aware of the fact that you will also get some negative feedback, maybe some harsh feedback, some hard truth. Maybe sometimes it's not even hard truth. Sometimes people will say something in negative because they're assholes. Sometimes they say something out of jealousy. That's also something you need to be aware of. What I'm saying is, this shouldn't stop you to put yourself out there. I mean, you should not kind of hinder yourself making YouTube channel just because you need to expect negative feedback or negative comments. It will happen. You just need to be aware that that will happen. If that happens, as I said in my previous videos, always go about it with some form of benefit of the doubt. Maybe that person just doesn't understand what you're doing. Then maybe that person can elaborate on that. If it's just an asshole, then do not engage, but do not get discouraged by that. Welcome constructive feedback, welcome honest feedback. Ignore negative feedback if it's not constructive. Ignore hateful comments, but always be aware of the fact that something like that will happen, and do not get discouraged by that. Making a YouTube channel and dealing with these kind of comments will prepare you, in my humble opinion, with the harshness of life, because you can expect those types of feedback in your life. Probably not as often like on YouTube, because on YouTube people know that they are anonymous and you cannot do anything about that basically. So people are very likely to just kind of splurge out some negative comment. But just because nowadays, if you are in front of a person, maybe that person doesn't want to give you negative feedback. We are in a time where people kind of are very rude and more open to speaking out very harsh and very unpolite comments. Again, I welcome constructive feedback, constructive criticism, but as I said, we are in times where people just splurge out negative feedback, sometimes racist feedback, sometimes very unsolicited, not constructive criticism, because they always say like, oh, that's just my opinion, but they have no idea what they're talking about. So be aware of that. And I feel like YouTube gives you a lot of room to learn new skills, but also gives you a lot of opportunities to grow in life, to be able to deal with that kind of incidents in your life, because that will happen at some point, that you receive some very harsh, unpolite feedback. By the way, in Germany, when you have a traffic jam, we always put on our hazard lights so people behind us know that we will be suddenly stopping on the highway. So that is a very good safety practice. Don't know if in your country you do that as well, but I think you should definitely do something like that if you go into a traffic jam. All right, that was my daily vlog about dealing with judgment and growing from negative feedback and negative comments, be it on YouTube or in your life. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid of negative comments. It will be harsh, but you can grow from that. Be open to negative feedback, listen to it, try to kind of recognize, is that constructive or is it just rude? And then kind of act appropriately. All right, if you want to see that vlog about those negative comments that I had on my channel about that, about my choice of car, check out the video up here. YouTube thinks that you like the video down here. Please consider subscribing, helping me to get to 1,000 subscribers by clicking the button up here. And I see you tomorrow. Drive safe, and thank you very much.